Meet Thomas the Tank Engine and his friends. Hello, let me introduce myself. My name is Sir Topham Hatt. I'm in charge of all the railway engines here on the island of Sodor. When the engines aren't busy working, some of them rest in the shed at the big station. Would you like to meet them? Well then, come along. Meet Thomas the Tank Engine. He has 6 small wheels, a short stumpy funnel, a short stumpy boiler, and a short stumpy dome. Thomas is a fussy little engine. All my engines are important, but Thomas thinks none of them works as hard as he does. He used to collect coaches for the big engines to take on long journeys. After trains came in and all the engine's passengers got off, he would push the coaches away so the engines could go and rest. Now Thomas has 2 coaches on his own, and he is very proud to have his very own branch line. Next, I should like to introduce you to Annie and Clarabelle. Annie only carries passengers. Clarabelle can carry passengers, luggage, and a conductor. One day, Thomas was such in a hurry to leave the station, he forgot to wait for Clarabelle's conductor to board. The conductor had to run to catch up with Thomas and the coaches. Annie and Clarabelle are rather old and need new paint, but Thomas doesn't mind that at all. The 3 of them like to sing songs to one another as they rattle along the line. Do you know why Thomas was given his own branch line? Well, it was, of course, as a reward for helping another engine named James. Now meet James, an engine whose main job is to pull freight cars, but on his first day, the silly freight cars pushed poor James down the hill into a field. It was Thomas who pulled away the freight cars and helped James back to the engine shed. I was so pleased with Thomas now he was a really useful engine. After the accident, James got new brakes and a shiny coat of red paint. He now says that he was a really splendid engine. One morning he let off steam so suddenly that he made my nice new top hat very wet. Here's another engine who thinks he's special. Gordon, the fastest and strongest of my engines. He's proud of being the only one strong to pull the express train. But sometimes Gordon has to pull dirty freight cars filled with coal, which makes him cross. Once Gordon got stuck going up a hill and he had to be pushed from behind. We call it Gordon's Hill now. Do you know who helped Gordon when he couldn't get up the hill? Edward. Here he is, the kindest engine there is. I depend on Edward all the time. He calms everyone down. When Edward pushed Gordon up the hill, everyone was very happy. Edward's driver gave him a drink of water and a new coat of blue paint with red stripes. Edward even offered to help James with some mischievous freight cars one day, but James managed to keep them in line all by himself. I asked Edward to train a new engine to work in the yard. The engine's name is Percy. Percy is a tank engine. Thomas was so busy working on his branch line and Edward was so busy with the freight cars that we needed a new tank engine to get coaches ready for the big engines to pull. I found Percy in an engine workshop and chose him myself. Percy is little. He can blow off steam very loudly. Sometimes he blows steam just to surprise the bigger engines and make them jump. He enjoys playing jokes on them. Here's an engine who thought he didn't need Edward's help, or anybody else's either. Meet Henry, who went into a tunnel one rainy day and refused to come out. He said that the rain would ruin his green paint and red stripes. Henry finally came out of the tunnel when Gordon burst a safety valve and couldn't pull his heavy coaches. It took Henry and Edward to pull Gordon's express train that day. Henry now knows that the best way to keep his paint nice is to ask his driver to wipe him down at the end of the day. You've heard about the freight cars, but have you met them yet? How silly and noisy they are. They talk a lot and don't pay attention to what they are doing. And freight cars love to play tricks on the engines. One morning they pushed Thomas the Tank Engine down the hill, laughing and rattling the whole time. I told Thomas afterward that he had a lot to learn about freight cars. Percy and Edward are quite good at making the freight cars behave. They love to push them into their proper paces, even though the cars scream, "Stop!" Now here is Toby the Tram Engine. I met Toby when I was on vacation. With his cowcatcher in front and plate on the sides, Toby doesn't look like a steam engine at all. Henrietta is Toby's coach, and she follows him everywhere. She and Toby used to take freight cars from farms and factories to the main line. They ran on a special track alongside roads and through fields and towns. But as time went on, Toby had fewer freight cars and Henrietta had fewer passengers. So the track was closed down and Toby and Henrietta came to work for me. Now Toby and Henrietta go to the quarry every morning. James made fun of them at first because Toby and Henrietta looked old and shabby. But soon they were given new coats of paint. Now they looked as good as new. Well, now you've met Thomas and many of his friends. I think they are really useful engines, don't you? Of course, not everyone here is a steam engine. Meet Buddy the Bus. Buddy takes people who want to travel by train to Thomas, and Thomas brings people back to the station for Buddy to take home. Once Buddy and Thomas had a race, and Thomas won, Buddy would have to grow wings and fly if he wanted to beat Thomas over the hills. Here is Howard the helicopter, who can fly. He hovers like a bird by whirling his arms about. Howard used to think that railways were slow and out of date. In fact, not much use at all. Then he and Percy had a race, and guess who won? Percy, because Harold couldn't find a place to land. Now Harold is good friends with all my engines, and they're always happy to see him. Here's another friend of Thomas's. Meet Terence the tractor. Instead of train wheels, Terence moves around on special wheels called caterpillars. They make it easy for him to go just about anywhere. In the fall, Terence plows fields. One winter day, he rescued Thomas when the little engine got stuck in a pile of snow. Terence the tractor is slow and steady and always has a smile ready. I almost forgot to introduce you to some special people here. The engineers and conductors who operate the trains, and the signalmen who show the engines which way to go, and of course the passengers who ride in the coaches. Now it's time to say goodbye. Thomas and his friends whistle. Peep, peep, goodbye, back to you. Come and visit us again soon on the island of Sodor.